Greetings all and welcome to lesson 3 on basics of stock markets. Now in the last two lessons, we have seen how a small spice shop grew big and raised money. Now in lesson 2, we saw that there are two ways to raise money. One is via debt. It can be from banks or friends or family. Second was via equity. Now again, in equity it can be by having partners from investors, venture capitalists or friends and family. However, there is one more way to dilute equity, and that is called as IPO. In today's class, we are going to discuss in detail about what exactly is IPO and why company does it. Now IPO stands for initial public offering. Now the name might be confusing, but let me break it out for you. IPO is a process where a private company becomes public. Now coming back to our example of Raju had only two investors. One was himself and other was Mr. X. So Mr. X was holding 10% stake in his company and Raju was owning 90%. You see, this company was privately held between two parties, that is Raju and Mr. X. Over a long run, he might have had 2 or 3 more venture capitalists or angel investors pumping in money. So that makes Raju's company have 3 or more investors. It is still privately held company because the shares are among limited number of people. When a company goes for IPO, it basically is collecting funds from normal public, and hence a normal public like you and me can also become a stakeholder or shareholder of this company. Now, when a company raises its fund via IPO, it goes from private to public. Now you might ask this question that can any and every company raise its IPO? If I have a startup, can I raise an IPO and can I collect money from public? Well, there are few criteria which has to be followed for a company to become eligible for raising its IPO. We are going to talk about these criteria one by one. First and the most important criteria is that a company should be profitable from last 3 years and its market value should be above 25 crore. You see, this point is very important because when an investor or a public wants to invest into a company, it should know that it is investing into a profitable company. So if a company is not profitable, its IPO is more likely to not perform. So yes, a company should show some growth from last 3 years and its market value or its overall net worth should be above 25 crore rupees. Second important point for a company to be eligible to raise its IPO is that it should not get a closing order from Supreme Court of India. Third, its directors, promoters or board members should not have any cases pending on them. Fourth, it should have a paid up capital of 10 crore rupees. Now before I go ahead, let us focus on what exactly do I mean by paid up capital. Paid up capital is basically the amount that public will offer to the company in return of shares. That means if a company wants to raise an IPO, the IPO worth should be minimum 10 crore or above. So that basically is paid up capital for you. Fifth is draft red herring prospectus. So this draft red herring prospectus should be very, very clear and it should have SEBI's approval on it. When a company goes through all this checklist, it becomes eligible to have an IPO. So that means a company should minimum raise 10 crore. It should have a market capital of about 25 crore. It should not have any active cases on itself or on all of its board members. Only then a company becomes eligible to raise funds. Now moving ahead, once it gets clearance to raise IPO, what are the steps involved? How will a company raise IPO? The first and the foremost thing that a company has to have is a merchant banker. Now there are big merchant bankers in India like State Bank, HDFC, ICICI, etc. Apart from having savings and current account, these big banks also does financing and helps big company raise money. Now in the case of Raju also has to find a merchant bank. It can be, let us say, HDFC Bank. And Raju, along with HDFC Bank, will form the roadmap to list itself onto Indian exchange. Now, why does Raju appoint merchant banker? Because merchant bankers are good at auditing, good at marketing, and good at showcasing how exactly Raju's company is an ideal investment for a retail trader. The job of merchant banker is to check the background of Raju's company. Merchant banker will thoroughly check if Raju's company is performing well, is there any loophole, is there any illegal activity, etc., etc. Once merchant banker thinks that the background of Raju's shop is clear, merchant banker will then actively start promoting Raju's share across the nation. Now, merchant banker also sometimes take underwriting. Underwriting is basically a guarantee or an assurance given by merchant bank to companies like Raju that in case the IPO doesn't become a hit, merchant banker will pay the entire remaining amount to make sure that the shares are purchased. For example, if Raju has to raise a fund of 1000 crore and he goes out to issue IPO, for some reason, let us say public undersubscribes its IPO and takes only shares worth 600 or 700 crore. He is still short of 300 or 400 crore. Now when merchant banker takes underwriting, merchant banker buys shares worth rupees 300 or 400 from Raju to ensure Raju gets that promised 1000 crore. So when a merchant banker does underwriting, the companies like Raju and its director feel relaxed. They are now having an assurance that their IPO will definitely become a hit. Why does merchant banker do this? Well, in return, merchant banker takes a very heavy fees. Merchant banker can charge up to 5 to 7% of the total fund raised. In Raju's case, since Raju is planning to raise 1000 crore, merchant banker would ideally charge somewhere between 50 crore to 70 crore as its fees. Since merchant banker is charging such a heavy fees, it also gives underwriting to Raju. Now once a merchant banker and Raju's meeting is fixed or a company's meeting is fixed, both of them together creates SEC draft. SEC stands for Security and Exchange Draft. Well, in this draft, they basically showcase how are they planning to utilize the fund raised from the public. You see, Raju is planning to raise 1000 crore from public. However, he has to tell public how exactly is he trying to utilize that fund. In this SEC draft, he can showcase his fund utilization. Say, he can write that 200 crore will be spent in marketing, 200 crore in hiring more employees, 200 crore in setting up new office, etc., etc. So once they define the future roadmap and the fund utilization, they will finally go to a detailed draft of red herring prospectus. Now, a draft of red herring prospectus is basically a complete overview of a company. This prospectus contains company's information, past performance, future growth expectations, what are the profits, what are the assets, what are the liabilities, balance sheet, cash flow statement, etc., etc. When this is presented to SEBI, SEBI checks it thoroughly and then approves a company whether they are eligible for IPO or they are not eligible for IPO. The reason why this prospectus is called as red herring prospectus is because of the big red franking done on the first page. A typical red herring prospectus looks something like this. So once the red herring prospectus is given to SEBI and the SEBI clears, there is no stopping. A company now gets clearance to list its IPO. When the company is listing its IPO in the market, there is one important factor that it has to take care of, and that is pricing of its IPO. Well, there is absolutely no limit or restriction from anyone to decide the price of the IPO. It is the judgment between merchant banker and the company itself, and mutually come to an agreement that at what price they want to issue their IPO. They can issue their IPO at 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 1000 rupees, 10,000 or 1 lakh. As said, there is no limit to it. However, they should have a practical approach and find an ideal price which they think is suitable and will be readily acceptable by the audience. Now, a company cannot raise unlimited amount just by going to IPO. Company first has to decide what is that overall valuation. Out of that, how much percent of the company they wish to give to public, and on that percentage, how much money are they expecting to raise. Assume Raju's Spice Shop is right now having a market capitalization of 10,000 crore. And Raju wants to raise 1,000 crore from public. That means Raju is willing to dilute 10% of its stake to public in order to raise 1,000 crore from public. Now Raju has decided that he wants to raise 1,000 crore. Now it is up to him to decide the share price. Let us say if Raju decides the share price is to be 100 rupees, he'll have to issue 10 crore shares to public. Similarly, if Raju decides to have the share price to be 200, then he will have to issue 5 crore shares to the public, so forth and so on. So the number of shares allotted in the public is inversely proportional to the price. Higher the price, lesser the number of shares issued in the public. Now let us say Raju decides that the price of his share should be 200 rupees. That means in his case, he will be allocating 5 crore shares in IPO, and public and a citizen like you and me can buy those shares in the form of IPO. Now as a user, you cannot randomly buy 1 share, 2 share, 5 shares. Usually IPO is issued in lots. That means there is a minimum number of shares you need to purchase to be eligible to buy that IPO. Usually a typical IPO ranges between 15,000 to 20,000 rupees. So in Raju's case, if the share price is 200 rupees, ideally he will have a lot size of 100. That means a retail investor like you and me can buy 100 shares or multiple of 100 shares in an IPO. User like you and me can apply for one or more than one lot of IPO also. Now you see in my example, I have assumed that Raju will take a fixed price of 200 rupees as its IPO price, and this type of pricing is called as fixed pricing. Well, this is an outdated way in which a company raises fund. The second and the more innovative way of raising fund is by book building. Book building is basically giving a range to the user to bid according to their convenience. Now, the problem with the fixed price is that sometimes a retail investor can find the price to be very overvalued, and because of which an IPO can be undersubscribed. Example, say if users find 200 rupees per share to be very costly to invest into Raju's company, a lot of people will turn down the IPO, and because of which people might not subscribe to his IPO at all. Rather, let us come back to book building process. In book building process, as a company, you give retail investors a price band to bid upon. Now this price band cannot be random. Raju cannot say bid between 100 and 200 or bid between 0 to 200. It cannot be like that. There is a maximum window of 20%. That means Raju can say between 200 to 240, 100 to 120, etc. So the maximum range between two prices is 20%. Let us say in our case, Raju gives a price band of 180 to 200. That means as a retail trader or investor, you can basically bid to purchase the shares between 180 to 200. The lowest price, that is 180, is called as floor price, and the highest price 200 is called as cap price. So a IPO buyer has to basically bid between floor price and the cap price only. When the bidding is complete, Raju and the merchant banker will check what is the price at which maximum bidding has come, and that price will be decided as the final true price. You see, in the book building process, investor also gets an opportunity to understand whether a company is undervalued or overvalued, and it can decide as per its risk appetite and as per its understanding at what price they are comfortable of buying the shares. This also ensures that Raju's IPO does not become a flop, and there are probability of it becoming more hit than a fixed price. In the recent last few years, majority of the companies have shifted to a book building process rather than fixed price. Now when the people want to invest into this IPO, the investing window is open for 3 to 5 days only. That means there will be certain number of days, or the dates will be finalized, and only on those days an investor can go and apply for IPO. They cannot apply before or after that. This process, as I said, lasts for 3 to 5 days, and in these 3 to 5 days all the investors who are invested to buy this IPO applies for it. Now while applying for IPO, there are several ways. You can directly make payment by UPI, or you can directly go to your broker demat account, and again from there you can pay via UPI, or there is one more outdated method called as ASBA. ASBA represents application supported by blocked amount. That means certain amount of the IPO value will be blocked from your bank account, and if the IPO is allotted to you, the amount will be debited. If the IPO is not allotted to you, the amount will be credited back to your account. So yes, there are 3 ways in which you can apply for an IPO: directly via UPI from your bank account, second via your demat account, again via UPI, and third is ASBA. Once this book building window is completed, for the share to list into the market, to make it to National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange, it roughly takes 3 working days. Now why are these 3 working days needed? Because a lot of people have applied for this IPO in last 3 to 5 working days. For a merchant banker to understand whom to allocate the shares, whom to refund the amount, all of that accounting needs some days. Also, merchant banker will collect the entire pool amount, cut its fees, and give that money to Raju's company. So this entire process takes 2 to 3 working days, and because of which, after the IPO window is open, it takes around 3 days for the entire process to complete, and then finally the stock gets listed onto exchange. From here on, you can buy and sell those shares. We will discuss about all of this in our coming videos. However, before I wind up this video, here are a few quick facts for you. The first IPO in the entire world was Dutch East India Companies. It was very obvious because Dutch East India Company was the first ever company to get listed and to have the stock exchange as well. However, the first company in India to have its IPO was DSP. In the next video, I am going to talk about how to trade and invest into stocks which are already listed onto these exchanges. See you in the next video.